Hey everyone! Welcome back to English Practice Lab. I'm Sarah.
And I'm John. Quick question to start us off, Sarah. How do you feel when someone says, let's make some small talk?
Honestly, a little bit of dread. My brain just goes blank.
You're definitely not alone. Almost everyone we talk to says the same thing. They'd rather sit in silence than start a conversation with a stranger.
So today's episode is exactly about that. How to make small talk feel natural instead of forced, even if English isn't your first language.
And that's actually a nice bonus for anyone learning English with us. Small talk is some of the most useful, real-world English you'll ever practice because it comes up everywhere. Elevators, waiting rooms, parties, the line at a coffee shop.
So let me start with the big question. Why do we even keep doing something almost nobody enjoys?
Because it actually works, even when it feels pointless in the moment. Small talk isn't there to entertain anyone. It's a tool. It's basically a signal that says, I understand how conversation works, and it's safe to talk to me.
I like that idea. It's like a little handshake before the real conversation even begins.
Exactly. Two strangers exchange a few harmless comments about the weather or the traffic, and only after that little exchange do people feel comfortable moving into anything deeper.
So skipping small talk completely and jumping straight into a deep question would actually feel strange to most people.
It would. It's like trying to shake someone's hand before you've even said hello. The order matters.
Okay, so let's get practical. What's the first mistake people make when they try to start a conversation?
They try to be interesting. They think they need some clever, original line, and because they can't think of one on the spot, they just say nothing.
That pressure to be witty is exactly what kills the conversation before it even starts.
Right. And here's the mindset shift that changes everything. You don't need to be interesting. You need to be interested. Your job isn't to impress the other person. It's to make it easy for them to talk to you.
So instead of thinking, what can I say that sounds smart? You're thinking, what can I ask that makes this easy for them?
Exactly. And honestly, that takes so much pressure off. You don't need a clever opening line. You just need a simple one.
Let's break down what simple actually looks like, because I think a lot of learners assume they need fancy vocabulary here.
Not at all. In fact, the simpler, the better, because the other person immediately recognizes the pattern and knows exactly how to respond. Something like, I don't think we've met yet. I'm John. Works perfectly at a party or an event where everyone already expects to talk to strangers.
And in places where talking is optional, like waiting for a coffee or riding in a taxi?
There, something softer works better. Just a simple, how's your day going? It's light, it's low pressure, and it gives the other person an easy way to respond, or to politely not engage, which is also completely fine.
And for situations where you're basically just two strangers passing by each other, like in a park or a bookstore.
That's where I like commenting on something you actually notice. That looks like a great book. Is it your first time reading this author? You're not demanding a conversation. You're just tossing out something small and seeing if they want to pick it up.
I love that image. You're offering the ball, not forcing them to catch it.
Exactly. And that takes away so much of the anxiety. Because if they don't want to talk, that's not a rejection of you personally. It's just not the right moment.
Okay, so we've opened the conversation. Now, here's where I think most people, including me, get stuck, keeping it going without those awkward silences.
This is honestly the part people struggle with the most. And the fix is surprisingly simple. Give more detail than feels natural at first.
What do you mean by that exactly?
So imagine someone asks you, what did you get up to this weekend? A short answer like, not much, just relaxed, basically ends the conversation right there. The other person now has to think of something completely new to ask.
It's like they passed you the ball and you just dropped it on the ground.
Exactly. But if instead you say something like, actually, I tried this new little cafe near my place. I'd seen it online and finally went to check it out, and it turns out their menu is way bigger than I expected.
Now, you've given them 3 or 4 possible directions to take the conversation.
They can ask about the cafe, the neighborhood, what you ordered, how you found it online.
Right. And that's the whole point. You're not trying to sound impressive. You're just giving the other person more material to work with. So the conversation doesn't feel like hard work.
That's such a useful reframe. It's not about being interesting. It's about being generous with details.
Exactly. Generous is the perfect word for it. And here's something that surprised me the first time I heard it. You don't need to invent something new every single time. Most people who are great at conversation actually reuse the same few stories and topics, just adapt it a little depending on who they're talking to.
That's actually really comforting because I always assumed good conversationalists were just naturally quick thinkers.
Not really. They've just built a small mental list of go-to topics, recent trips, shows they've been watching, a hobby, something funny that happened recently, and they pull from that list instead of trying to invent something brand new under pressure.
Which is great advice for anyone listening. Maybe pause the video later and actually think of 2 or 3 little stories from your week that you could share if someone asks what you've been up to.
That's such a good exercise, honestly. Preparing a few topics in advance means you're never caught off guard.
Now, let's talk about the other half of a good conversation, because it's not only about talking, it's about listening well, too.
This might be the most underrated skill in all of this. People love being asked follow-up questions. It genuinely makes them feel heard, and it makes them like you more.
So if someone mentions they went hiking last weekend, instead of just saying, cool, and moving on, you'd ask something like, oh, really? Where did you go? Was it a tough trail? Just 1 or 2 follow-up questions shows real interest without turning into an interrogation. And I think the goal is to keep it balanced, right? Not just questions, questions, questions.
Exactly. A great conversation usually feels roughly 50-50. You ask, you share a little of your own experience or reaction, and then hopefully they ask you something back. If they don't, that's fine. You just share a bit more and the conversation naturally keeps moving.
Let's talk about topics for a second, because I know a lot of our viewers wonder what's actually safe to bring up with someone they barely know.
Some really reliable ones are places. Where have you traveled? Where do you want to go next? Entertainment. What have you been watching or listening to lately? And hobbies. Anything someone's genuinely into right now.
What about topics to avoid, especially early on?
I'd be a little careful with jobs and family, at least until the other person brings them up first. They can sometimes be more stressful topics than people expect, especially with someone you've just met.
That's a great tip. Keep things light until there's a natural reason to go deeper.
Exactly. And speaking of going deeper, once a conversation is flowing well, you can absolutely move past the surface level. A question like, what's the best thing that's happened to you recently, can open up a much richer exchange, as long as the mood already feels comfortable.
So it's not that small talk has to stay small forever. It's more like a bridge to something more meaningful.
That's exactly it. Small talk gets you across the bridge. What happens on the other side depends on both people.
Okay, before we wrap up, I want to share a couple of English phrases that are genuinely useful for this kind of conversation, since that's what English Practice Lab is all about.
Great idea. First one, instead of just asking, how are you? Try, anything exciting going on with you lately? It sounds warmer, and it gives people more room to actually share something.
I really like that one. Second phrase for me, when you want to show genuine interest, you can say, that's interesting. Tell me more about that. It's simple, but it invites someone to keep talking.
And a final one, if a conversation naturally comes to an end, a polite way to close it is, it was really nice talking with you. I hope you have a great rest of your day. It ends things warmly instead of just trailing off awkwardly.
Those are wonderful and honestly so practical for real life, not just for interviews or formal situations.
That's the beauty of small talk. It shows up everywhere, so a little practice goes a long way.
All right, let me do a quick recap. First, Remember that small talk isn't about being clever. It's about being genuinely interested in the other person.
Second, match your opener to the situation. Direct and simple at parties, light and easy in places like elevators or cafes, and gentle observations in low-pressure settings like parks or bookstores.
Third, give generous, detailed answers instead of short ones, so the other person has more to work with and the conversation keeps flowing naturally.
Fourth, ask genuine follow-up questions and aim for that 50-50 rhythm between talking and listening.
And finally, don't be afraid if some attempts don't go anywhere. Not every conversation needs to become a friendship. Sometimes a friendly 30-second exchange is exactly enough.
Small talk isn't about perfection. It's about practice. The more you try, the more natural it becomes.
That's it for today's episode of English Practice Lab. If this helped you feel a little more confident about starting conversations, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what's coming next.
And next time you're standing awkwardly at a party or waiting in line somewhere, try one of these openers and let us know in the comments how it went.
We genuinely love to hear your small talk stories, good or awkward.
Take care, everyone, and go start that conversation.